My name is Sana Chopra, and I'm actually the Executive Director of Cybis Bright Star Restaurants Private Limited. It's basically a company under the umbrella group of Cybis Corp, which also owns different franchisees, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So I'm giving a master class on how to make the most of a master franchisee. So what is the master in the master franchising? Just as the name suggests, master here represents being the master. It's basically having the reins of running an organization. It's actually building the foundation of running a business. So if, for example, Cybis Bright Star Restaurants, as I mentioned that I'm part of, has got the master franchise of Carl's Jr. India. Carl's Jr. is essentially the 4th largest burger chain in the world, and it's actually the 3rd largest burger chain in terms of revenues. So the parent company is Carl Carter Enterprises, and Carl's Jr. has actually just opened operations this year, August 8th, 2015, in Saket. So essentially the way the model works is that you have a parent company, and the parent company would give out the rights, the franchise to another country or region or person to actually open and establish retail outlets or restaurants. So if you see the diagram, you can see that you have essentially a franchisor, which gives a master franchisee, and the master franchisee can then further have 3 options to expand. Now, what are the 3 options that you have? You have a regular franchisee, you have the option of doing multi-unit franchisees, and you also have the option of giving out basically areas, so regions to develop and grow, which I'm going to delve into in a little bit. But if you see that, what is the main difference between a franchisee and a master franchisee? A franchisee is when someone, say, I'm going to name another brand, I think everyone's been to a Subway. So how does Subway work in the country? Subway gives out individual franchisees to people. What have we done as representing Cybis Bright Star? We've actually got the master franchisee, so the rights, the exclusive rights for us to open and operate restaurants across the country. So that is essentially the difference between a franchisee and a master franchisee. Just talking in depth about franchisees, multi-unit franchisees, as well as area developments. Franchisee is, say, I've got the rights to open Carl's Jr. restaurants in India. I would potentially give a partner, a business partner, an entity or an individual, the rights or the license to open and operate Carl's Jr. restaurants, say one of them in, say, if you guys are familiar with Delhi, say a Saket or a Vasant Kunj or another target area. If I had to give multi-unit franchisees, what we would do is potentially an entity to open and operate 2 to 3 or maybe even more restaurants across the Delhi market or across the country for that matter. Then if you have area development, say our headquarters are based in Delhi, but we wish to open a couple of restaurants in Karnataka, and I think that we may not have the expertise to sit in Gurgaon, where the headquarters is, and to open and operate restaurants in the south, we would potentially give an area development contract or a quota to another entity or a person to groom and grow that area. So it need not be essentially a locality, but essentially a region or a state or a big strong locality for that matter, where there is potential to grow multiple franchisees and to successfully open and operate those. I'm going to give you a little bit of personal example. So like I said, Cybis Bright Star Restaurants is part of the umbrella group Cybis Corp. Now Cybis Corp also has another division known as Remax. So Remax is actually the world's largest real estate brokerage firm, which we bought under the company Cybis Realty into India. We got it in 2009. And it's actually a very interesting model, the way the master franchising for this company works. So you have Remax headquarters in Denver in the US. They have given the master franchise of Remax to us, to Cybis Corp, to Cybis Realty in India. We call ourselves Remax in India. Remax, when we bought the franchise in 2009, we actually bifurcated into multiple parts, around 22 to 25 parts, based on the demographics, the culture, basically depending on the growth areas of different markets in the country. We bifurcated into different parts. Just an example, there could be Remax Haryana, Remax Delhi NCR, Remax Kerala, and we gave out master franchisees of the Remax brand in those regions. What these franchisees further did was they got into sub-franchising and gave out further licenses of Remax, say Remax ABC, XYZ, and they opened these Remax offices, so they get further sub-franchised, and these offices then, in a way, gave the license and hired agents to actually be a part of the Remax group. So this is a very different model that we approached in Remax, but there was master franchising and further sub-franchising and further franchising in the country. Under the parent group Cyberscope, we also have this company known as Cyber Super Brands, which has the master franchise of various other brands. For example, Out of the Box Cafe, Chatter House or Chatter Hub, the Embassy Restaurants. And what we do is, we bought these, if you guys are from Delhi, you'll know that they're very famous mom and pop restaurants in the city. Now, they're very famous restaurants in the city, but they were a single unit successful store running without them being franchisable. Now, for us to actually open and operate restaurants and to ensure the quality is maintained and their standardization, it's essential that we are able to, they're franchisable. The standards are set. And what we did was we actually spent a couple of years with them, made them franchisable, and now we're opening these restaurants across the country. So this works on a different model, which is that we've got the master franchisee, say, of an Embassy restaurant, and then we're opening number of identical looking Embassy restaurants across the globe. Of course, they vary in terms of size, and maybe the menu is a little larger and smaller in different areas. Depends on the locality and the city you're opening in. But essentially, it's the same format which is replicated across the country. Talking about Carl's Jr. in India, we have company-owned restaurants. We just opened the first one. We're going to open a couple of more. But we're also going to go the multi-unit franchisee as well as the area development route, which I just mentioned. Now, why should someone take a master franchisee? And there are various reasons why someone should. And I'm going to talk about each of these reasons. But just in a nutshell, I would like to say that you need to have knowledge about a certain fields. And, a lot of us come from different backgrounds. A lot of us come from F&B backgrounds, but, essentially not from franchising backgrounds either. And so these key areas are missing. And when you have a parent company that helps you franchise out, that makes a master franchisee, they actually assist you in a lot of avenues. For example, human resource deployment, operations and supply chain, product development, quality maintenance and training, marketing, advertising, communication, finance, expenditure, budget, as well as location, and location. Human resource deployment. The organizational hierarchy, the number of people, the job descriptions, everything is actually handed out to the master franchisee on a platter. They actually assist you and guide you and advise you as to how many people you need, at what level, what should their job roles be. Essentially, when Carl's Jr. opened up, the need of the hour was, it's a startup. We need people to put in work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, do groundwork. Even the seniors had to do groundwork. But the need of the hour a year later, when we've started operations, changes. And that is something that the parent company or the brand owner would actually guide the master franchisee as how to move forward. And as you know, you're able to hire your own people. In a franchisee, the corporate team is already set to you, and you have to work with them whether you're compatible or not. But when you are involved in a master franchisee, you actually have the opportunity to choose your own people, and there's greater compatibility. Greater compatibility will eventually lead to greater profitability. Operations and supply chain, you have greater control over supply chain, over inventory management, over maintaining the stocks in the restaurant, in the warehouse. You have greater access to be part of the whole process. Just to move forward, I would like to give an example that I mentioned in the bottom, that you also have the say in choosing the hours of operations. Essentially, your business partners, when you have a master franchise, and you're part of the whole process. My favorite, product development. Imagine that you have an opportunity to actually be involved and with the parent company and give suggestions and help them grow and help them establish what products to actually sell in the restaurant or a retail outlet. So it's not a plug-and-play process where, if you take a franchisee, this is the menu mix, these are the items that we're going to sell. You actually are involved in the entire process where you can give them feedback. As a personal example, when Carl's Jr. Wanted to open in India, they had done 3 years of extensive research before they actually tied up with us. With that much valuable knowledge and that much research that they've done, I mean, what could us as master franchisees bring onto the table is what someone would wonder. But you'll be surprised. I mean, particularly for them, we know the Indian palate. They're sitting in the US, have a great knowledge about the Indian industry, about the Indian palate, but we're Indians on the ground doing the groundwork. As an example, we wanted to get these famous French fries in the restaurant with a gravy. After a lot of personal research as a company, Cybis Bright Star, we realized that we don't want soggy fries. Indians don't like soggy fries. Indians want crispy fries with a twist, but not something gooey and gravy. And that's when the idea came that let's get some dry powder, and we threw that idea to our parent company, and there now we have wasabi fries in the restaurant. Our highest selling item in the restaurant, and that just comes because we do the groundwork so we know what is going to actually work. And being a master franchisee, they look at you as partners, as equal partners, and they take your suggestions into play. Quality maintenance and training is also very essential. As a master franchisee, you are responsible for maintaining the overall quality of each food item, of the processes. There's auditing that needs to be done. You need to provide training, and it's actually a lot of work. But you have the reins in your hand. Eagles attract eagles, so good people attract good people. So if you're able to impart that training and that knowledge and that QSC, quality service, cleanliness is maintained in the restaurant, that's replicated. So, if you have a franchisee and you're doing everything that you can in your restaurant, it's not essentially, or your retail outlet, it's not essential that your fellow colleague who also owns a master franchisee is following that. And if the goodwill is tarnished by one franchisee, it has a direct effect on your brand name as well. But if you have a master franchisee, you have the reins in your hand, you can actually control the way the brand is able to establish itself in the country. Marketing, advertising, and communications. So at the time of an agreement signing, the parent company would actually tell you that you need to allocate a certain percentage of your pre-opening budget as well as your post-opening revenues into marketing. Many companies have a fixed dollar amount, a rupee amount, or they have a fixed percentage that they expect you to allocate. But with franchisees, it's a smaller percentage, and it may not, if you give that amount to your parent company or a master franchisee, you essentially don't know where it's being used. But with a master franchisee, you have the entire budget in your hands, and you have to invest that back into the company, but you can decide where that marketing spend is being made. Do you want to allocate it equally across all your franchisees, or does a particular franchisee that you have under you needs that support? So you actually have that budget in your hands to take that decision. Again, finance and expenditure, you basically it's your budget in your hands, but you also, it's spent at your discretion, but you have the parent company actually advising you based on their experience in different regions, different markets, different countries, and they actually provide you feedback on what should your ideal labor cost be? What should your P&L look like after 1 month of operations? What should the ideal CapEx investment be? And not to forget that in most cases, you actually give royalties back to them. So the minute you make money is when they make money. With Carl's Jr. as well, we opened operations 2 months ago. We had high capex investments, and our parent company is actually working with us to bring that gradually down because they want us to make more money as well. So it's actually an equal partnership when you get into a master franchisee agreement. Location, location, location. What happens with a master franchisee? Developers look at you. You have a brand story to tell. You have a big picture to sell. I've got the master franchisee of Carl's Jr. in India, and I'm able to sell a story of the 4th largest burger chain. I'm able to give them a story. I'm able to show them my development quota, which is about minimum of 100 restaurants in 10 years. Developers want to look at you because you're not opening one restaurant. You're giving them potential to do business in so many locations. Okay, so there are various models which a master franchisee can adopt. So with Carl's Jr. also, we're opening company-owned restaurants, but we also are going to sub-franchise out those restaurants as we move forward. Now, we want to sub-franchise out, and there are various models which we can adapt. So you have the 4-4 model, which is the franchisee-owned and franchisee-operated model. You have the FOCO model, which is the franchisee-owned and the company-operated model. You have the COCO, the company-owned and company-operated model. And another very, very attractive model which we have, which is the IOCO, which is the investor-owned and the company-operated. So an investor may invest in a particular real estate location for you, and you will and the company will actually operate the restaurant on behalf of that investor. Over here, when I say company, I mean the master franchisee. And when I name the franchisee, I mean sub-franchising. Because here, when the master franchisee becomes a master franchisor, you essentially become the company. Now, for food and beverage franchisees in particular, because that is my expertise, it's essential that if you have a master franchisee, then you should actually always get into company operations, only because you can ensure this greater quality and standardization is met. You cannot take a risk with health and food and safety. And so essentially, if someone gets into F&B franchisee, I would strongly suggest that it should be a company-operated restaurant. There are a lot of requirements before a master franchisee can actually start franchising out restaurants. Now, there's a reason why, I can talk about my own experience, why in Carl's Jr. we want to open up restaurants, open our own company-owned restaurants, and then eventually get into sub-franchising. And the reason is on the board. We need to make sure our target audience is clear. We've said for Carl's Jr. that our target audience is 18 years to 40 years. But are you actually getting that target audience? If someone attending the morning session, one of my colleagues mentioned that, a chain came into the country, and instead of selling donuts, they started selling burgers because they realized that the product needs to be tweaked based on what the consumers want. The age group of various brands that they come into, in a lot of markets, a burger market is essentially 18 years to 90 years. In a market like India, it may not be so. So you need to actually see what the target audience comes down to before you're able to give your franchisee to another company. Is the marketing budget is spent? Have you allocated that budget correctly? Do you need to do more print? Do you need to do more social media? You need to identify those avenues. Has your supply chain been established? Right now, we're opening all our restaurants in Delhi NCR because we want to make sure the foundation of our supply chain is strong. We know our menu mix, our inventories are in place, and then essentially can we actually diversify and open restaurants across the country. Corporate hierarchy is in place. You need to make sure your financial controller, your real estate head, your lawyers, your supply chain head, your operations head, you need to ensure that those fixed positions and that hierarchy and that flow is actually strong before you can expand, because you need to make sure that the franchisee can look up to a franchisor for all the help that he or she may require. Real estate market and potential locations identified. When you are a franchisor, you may be looking around for people and wanting entries for people to turn in entries and give and you want people to approach you and say, I want your franchisee. But franchisors on the other hand have already identified which real estate locations they actually want to open up in. So if I know I want to open inside a select city walk, I know the guys to approach. If I want to open in a Punjabi Bagh, I know which is the lane I want to open up in. So we have already identified the locations, but at the same time, we need to identify that ourselves before we actually have people who inquire for franchisees. Because like I mentioned, location, location, location. If you have a bad location, you don't have potential for high footfall, you don't have good visibility, then the best restaurant in the world is actually not going to do well. Training manuals are ready. A parent company will always give you hardcore manuals and explain you the training process, but they need to be tweaked based on the region that you're actually opening and operating your restaurants or retail outlets in. And so those training manuals need to be completely ready. And so with Carl's Jr. as well, all the groundwork before we joined them was done. And when the master franchisee comes on board, they essentially have to just spend time tweaking it and giving their suggestions, but the groundwork has already been done. The growth and expansion plans have to be clear. For example, we've established we want to open Carl's Jr. restaurants in the Delhi region, then the Delhi NCR region, then Punjab, then Bombay, Maharashtra, and then the rest of the country. So those plans have to be met as well before you can actually go and start franchising out. Live example of smooth operations actually being conducted. So now I have a product to show to people. I have a restaurant running and coming in. So if you have an actual live example, that always works. If you see all the opportunities available over here, there's a stronger chance of you buying a franchisee if you've seen a product actually working and you're seeing the potential and you're seeing the ROI that it's going to make. Franchisees will only be successful if you are successful. So all this you're actually not doing for the franchisee, you're doing for yourself. If you're able to make sure that they can make money, just how you make royalties to the parent company, these guys are going to be making royalties to you. So you need to make sure that the foundation is strong so they can make money, because you need to collaborate to succeed. So in a nutshell, what do you expect when you want to open a master franchisee? You enjoy the goodwill. You get the goodwill of a brand on a platter. You're always informed of the industry's know-hows. You have all the knowledge. You have 20 more people, 30 more people, hundreds of more people, thousands of more people in your network who are actually fully involved in the groundwork, who are doing all the hard work about the industry. And because you're a team, you get to know that information. There's continuous training and learning. There's always training. When we got the franchisee of Carl's Jr., a couple of us, the whole team, 6 directors and about 10 more people, 16 of us went to LA next to our headquarters, which is in Carpinteria, and we spent 2.5 months on hardcore training. We're going to again do that training 2 months later. So the parent company doesn't think that we've given a master franchisee and our role is over. They essentially make sure that you have trained the trainer programs, that people keep getting retrained and trained, just so that you need to ensure that there's smooth operation throughout. There's a strong network. Now, with Remax also, Remax is in 98 countries. We have Remax in India, and I am able to do business with Remax Istanbul, with Remax, Greece, US, Mexico, just because of network that we've built. So, you're not confined to only the network that you have in the country, or maybe a state if it's just an India franchisee, but you're actually able to do business with people across the globe, if you buy a master franchisee of that stature. It's a lifelong mentorship program. Since we've signed with Carl's Jr., we signed up last year, August, we've had someone from one division be in the country at all times. The head of operations, the head of supply chain, the real estate global head, the vice president, the training head, the marketing, you name it. There is someone who's here at least every week. I have someone in town today as well, someone who's here throughout, who's actually mentoring you. How to increase sales, how to increase footfalls, what kind of equipments to buy, how to cut down on equipments. So it's a continuous mentorship program that you have someone guiding you through the process. It's a business empire to run. We talk about being entrepreneurs and owning a business, but there's a huge difference between running a business and running a business empire. Having a master franchisee is actually running a business empire. So just in a nutshell, it's a lot of work. It's very different from a franchisee. But you're trying to establish not a business, but a business empire. And the benefit that I would like to say is that the higher risk, higher hard work, higher, all the hard work that you put in is actually going to give you higher rewards. So, I can talk from experience that, we had the opportunity to take on franchisees as well, but, we wanted to put more skin in the game. To have higher rewards, and essentially that's what made us take, Cyberscope take multiple master franchisees. And I think we're still in this forum right now and outside in the stalls, and we're still getting people who are approaching us to take master franchisees from them. And we're all game because, we're all in the kicks for the business, and it's really exciting. So I hope, some of you who are considering it would actually consider taking one because it's a huge opportunity. Thank you.